Hello guys and gals, and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. This time we take a look at a DOS game creepypasta, based on an actual game called Helious. So, what is it about? Well, sit back, relax, and enjoy this creepypasta titled Helious. In the early 1990s, a game for the DOS system was released by a developer named Sean Puckett. It went by the name Helious. The game was shareware and not very well known. There was another game very similar to Helious known as Helious 2. Despite Helious 2 sounding like its sequel, it very much wasn't. And what Sean did was split the original Helious in two and sell the latter half as Helious 2 for $25. Oddly, both games work just fine from a Windows 32-bit system. Not much is known about Sean Puckett himself. The only thing known on him online is his very outdated company, Albino Frog Software website. The company itself was originally known as Night Sky before being inexplicably renamed to Albino Frog Software. The game Helious is, to say the least, odd. If a player were to start up the game, the first screen would be a text story about the backstory of the game. And the backstory is as follows. Helious, how to produce a game in 8 days. First off, I know you won't believe my story. That's alright. You don't gotta believe. I know it happened, and that's good enough for me. Besides, Helious is fun whether or not you believe how it came to be. I'm not the sort of person who likes UFO stories, and I used to scoff at all of them. Whitley Strieber. Now there's a nutcase. I'd like to think myself. I used to watch Project Blue Book when I was a kid, but that's just television. I also watched Star Trek, so on May 5th, 1993, UFOs were the farthest thing from my mind. But of course, when you're least expecting it, wham! Your life gets turned upside down. I usually go to bed around 3 in the morning. The night was a little stormy, unusual for Florida in May, especially in 1993. A bit of lightning kicking off now and then steady hiss of the rain. Gurgle of the gutters, occasional car going past slinging yellowed headlight beams through my bedroom window. I just closed my eyes when a low, dull hum started up, very faint, very far. We live near a small airport, so the throaty growl of a private plane is something we're used to, and rarely take notice of. Even the eerie drone of the blimps also moored nearby is common enough not to warrant a look. But this was unusual. Private planes, as a rule of thumb, don't fly during storms or at 3 in the morning. The blimps were certainly very well tied down against a gusty wind, so what the fuck was this noise? The hum. That was growing louder. Police helicopter? Maybe. They always seem to conduct late-night reconnaissance missions in my neighborhood just when I'm dropping off to sleep. Mayor's dog probably got loose again. The light flicking in my windows seemed to confirm this. A strong searchlight beam apparently taking inventory of my front yard. Nothing there. Fellas. No dog, no escaped convicts. It was at this point that fear had struck me. The light, I just realized, was green. The most brilliant green that I'd ever seen. No headlight was ever that color. No searchlight would ever be green. And so steady. The hum, having gradually gotten louder over the past minute, seemed constant in volume now. But the tone was changing. Instead of its initial droning pitch, it seemed to be modulating, varying in pitch slightly. There I was, standing near my window, bathed in bright green light, listening to an otherworldly hum coming apparently from right overhead. What would you do? I'll tell you what I did. I ran like a man possessed, nearly killing myself, tripping over a stack of phone books in my mad rush to get to the other side of the house, to the door outside, to safety. No way am I going to be trapped in the house with who knows what weirdness, be it Spaceman, the CIA, or maybe the Illuminati. I flung open the door, and outside, where the garbage can should have been, was a bright shaft of greenish light. Standing in the lights, swathed in mist, was a perfect copy of myself with its hand outstretched as if to open the door to get out. In the movies, the hero would now do a Groucho Marx routine to see if the image moved the same way he did. Then he would make friends, learn a new alien language, draw up a treaty, all that stuff. I instead fainted and fell flat on my face into the weeds. My last thought was, there goes to the movie rights. I don't know how long I was out, whoever does, but it was dark when I woke up. No green light, no mirror image, no burbling hum. The door was still open, the garbage cans were back where they were supposed to be. The rain had lessened to a light drizzle. The full moon was peeking through the thinning clouds. I stumbled around the stocky yard in a daze. I had a vague suspicion that there would be some sort of alien thing waiting for me in the house, so I really don't want to go back inside. But the eventual realization that I was wandering around my front yard in the wee hours of the morning, under a full moon, with only my skivvies on, made a certain impression on me. So rather than make a big scene, waking the neighbors up and trying to sound less like a deranged lunatic, which I probably was, and more like a damn frightened victim of UFO harassment, in a skivvies, by the way, I peered in all the windows, looking for suspicious green glows. I didn't see anything strange inside, so I crept back to the door and made my way in, slowly listening carefully. I fired up all the lights at once with the light control system, nothing amiss, checked the closet. No alien ambassadors, looked in the shower, no mutants. Open all the kitchen cabinets, no extraterrestrial slime molds, no super space roaches, nothing. Everywhere I looked, zip. I was beginning to relax. Checked the computer room, turned on the computers, made sure all the drives were okay. Perfect. The data, my latest projects were safe. Much more relaxed now. Delayed stress syndrome kicked in, and I got a sudden, incredible case of the shakes. My heart started to pound, my knees got all weak, and I sank into the chair, and instantly right out of it I leapt, like an 800-volt cat. I always leave my chair tucked under the desk, but it had been there in the middle of the room when I came in. I grabbed at the nearest blunt object, my VCR remote, and scanned the room intently. I don't know what I planned to do with the remote, but there it was, and whatever happened to me, I wanted to die with a weapon in my hand. I kicked the chair away, and I whirled it into a corner. I stood still for many moments, listening, looking, but nothing moved, nothing had happened. The bright eye of my computer monitor patiently glared at me, almost seeming to say, "What are you up to?" I warily wandered around to the cabinets and, hooking my foot under the door, opened each one. Junk. Just like I left it. The shelves of books appeared to be undisturbed. My desk drawers I opened, with a back-scratcher at 3 paces, a mishmash of printouts and faxes, nothing. Looked under the desk, dust bunnies. Hell, I feel like an idiot. All this paranoia because I left my chair out for once in my life. I sat heavily into it, and wheeled up to the computer keyboard. In the cracks between the keys were traces of green fluid. On the disk drive handle, more. I bolted to my feet once more and searched the whole house again with a flashlight. This time checking each and every cranny. Nothing, nowhere. Just traces of green slime on the keyboard and the disk drive. Okay, so this UFO roared up into my house at 3 in the morning in the middle of a thunderstorm, scares me till I faint, and the only evidence I have of it is some rapidly evaporating green glop on my computer. And what's this? A new directory on the hard drive? A collection of files in it? Right. Sure, aliens brought me some files, probably interstellar shareware, right? I copied the files onto a disk, deleted them from the hard drive, and did a complete systems check. Virus check, disk integrity check, everything. Nothing was wrong. I go over to the testing machine and punch up the files on the disk. No readmes. Why am I not surprised, by the way? But there's a bunch of source files and one exe file. I don't mind running strange things on the test machine, that's what it's for, so I fire it up. What I got then is very similar to what you now have before you in Helious. An incredibly strange, surreal game. No scoring, no words, just some weird symbols. I showed it to some friends and tell them where I got it. They quite disbelieve my story, but they do like the game, and have never ever seen it, or anything like it before. Someone suggests I upload it to a board, so I decide to, but not until I tack on the title screen in some good old-fashioned American entrepreneurial spirit. I divided the game into 2 segments, and now you have the first half. You can order the second half directly from me. The address is in the order form. And that's how you got your copy of Helious. I made up the name and the title screen. It's a Van Gogh, of course, and it seemed appropriate. When the player would continue, the next screen would be of a tentacle made of decreasingly smaller cyan spheres on top of an interlaced web of something gray. Surrounding the tentacle would be a color wheel made of spheres and a polygonal pattern of 9 colors: red, orange, yellow, light green, dark green, cyan, blue, purple, and pink. Surrounding the spheres would be 9 inexplicable symbols, each of their respective color spheres. Each symbol is different, making about a total of 9 different symbols. In the background of the spheres would be a descending ring, almost like a surface mine, actually. The player would control the tentacle, moving it around as if the biggest cyan sphere was pinned to the web. If the player moves the tip of the tentacle in the directions of one of the colored spheres with a mouse, if the player clicks in the direction of the spheres, the symbol near the sphere changes, turning into a symbol of the sphere to the clockwise direction of it. It turns out that this menu is actually a screen to enter a code, the spheres themselves being a level select. To get that code, you must play the game. To select a level, the player must point the tentacle towards one of the colored spheres and hit enter. The screen would then change to that of one centered on an almost balloon-like sphere. The player would then use the arrow keys to propel the balloon forward. The method of propulsion is almost as if it's a rocket in space. The balloon blows out some sort of white gas to push it, and the physics are that very much of space as well, using the laws of inertia, meaning that if you propel the ball forward, then you won't stop until it hits something, and in fact, then it only just bounces off of it. Each level is different. Some are simple mazes, other are areas filled with enemies that either stick to the walls and shoot some sort of object at you, or things that just float around and target you. One thing that is similar between these levels, however, is the extreme titling, as in the same object or background is being repeated again and again. These tiles make up the walls and floors of the level. The objective of the game is to go around each level and collect some sort of blue gems. When the player collects all the gems, a small flag with the level symbol appears. The player then moves over to the flag and then goes over it with the balloon. Turns it into one of the symbols from the main menu. The symbol is one of them in the code, and when you enter it into the colored sphere, and the rest from the completed level, the final screen then appears, and well, the screen's indescribable, so the only way is to show it. The screen isn't still. Usually a small, almost sinister surrounding alien drone sounds through the background, while the small cyan balls float towards the center. This is Helious. No one knows whether aliens actually made the game or not. No one knows what any of this is supposed to mean. The only person who has a clue about the game is Sean Puckett. But no one knows the guy, or if he still even exists. Any way of contacting him is extremely out of date, whether through the game's addresses or the Albino Frog's outdated website. However, there is one question though. Are we alone? Well, 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 it happens to be a little UFO story, and rarely do I think we ever get any of those. Now, it's not a creepypasta in the story sense, but it's actually something that allegedly happened. Now, the story is available, and so are the games. I'll leave a download link for them below as well. Once again, please play at your own risk. But these games are your standard sort of asteroid game with questing for gems, and for its own right, it's actually somewhat fun. Now, one thing that is still up for debate is the story, and now it would be really fun to think some aliens invaded this guy in Florida. It would even add to the creepiness, and you know what? Give some signs that there are life. But to be quite real, it does shoot itself in the face quite substantially. Now first off, look, if there's intelligent life out there, why the fuck would they come down here to deliver some game to this individual? And no one would even notice around. And even then, they wrote in source code that we can understand. One would think that another species might have computer systems that are different, and so programming language would differ from ours. But then this guy, over fucking night allegedly, as far as I know, managed to understand the source code, and even doing then can take quite some fucking time. He managed to split the game and sell it off. I know the story is something a lot would, like to believe in, but really it seems that it's just a marketing gimmick, and a nice one at that. But all for the sake of the spooky side of gaming, if this was real, then what about that last question, are we alone? No, we're not, because if a movie like The Room can exist, it surely gives signs that aliens also exist, because something like that cannot come from humans themselves. But more seriously though, it makes you wonder that even if this is true, then this game surely must have something to do in it that only aliens can understand. Maybe it is something that's sent from the aliens to, I guess, study us or sort of fuck with us. And the last picture? It might be fucked up, but you know what? Humans outdid it with LSD, that's for damn sure. In the end, it's a tale that leaves some divided, but as far as I can see it, it's a clever marketing ploy. Or is it? In the end, who even knows but Sean himself, and you know what? To give him some credit, the guy is a fucking badass when it comes to programming. Seriously, check out the guy's resume. But all in all, the only one who will know is him. Until aliens come down again and give one of us a copy of Helious 3. In the end, would you rate it, and what would you change to make it better? Please tell me in the comments below. This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.